July 2nd, 1955, a seemingly ordinary day, ripe with the promise of summer. Little did anyone know, this date would become etched in aviation history, not for triumph, but for a baffling disappearance. New York's Idlewild Airport, now known as John F. Kennedy International Airport, buzzed with the frenetic energy of summer travelers. Families embarking on vacations, business people rushing to meetings, the air crackled with anticipation. Among the aircraft preparing for departure was Pan Am Flight 914, a Douglas DC-4, a reliable workhorse of the skies in its time. The ground crew meticulously went through their pre-flight checks, ensuring every system was functioning as it should for a routine trip to Miami. 57 passengers, a mix of tourists and those heading home, and 4 experienced crew members boarded the aircraft, their faces reflecting the calm confidence of seasoned professionals. They were all expecting a smooth 3-hour flight down the eastern seaboard to the sunny beaches of Miami. The weather was perfect, clear skies stretching as far as the eye could see, and the crew was highly experienced. From the outside, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just another flight on a beautiful summer day. The DC-4 lifted off smoothly from the runway, its silver skin gleaming in the morning sun, and climbed steadily to its cruising altitude, leaving the bustling city behind. For the first hour of the flight, everything was perfectly normal. The hum of the engines, the gentle rocking of the plane, all signs of a routine journey. Routine radio check-ins with air traffic control confirmed their steady progress south. Then, without warning, silence descended. The flight's routine radio transmissions abruptly stopped, cutting off all communication with the ground. One moment, Flight 914 was a clear, distinct blip on the radar screens, diligently tracked by air traffic control. The next, it had simply vanished, leaving behind an empty space where it once was. Air traffic controllers, initially thinking it was a minor radio issue, tried repeatedly to re-establish contact, but there was nothing but static. No distress call was ever received, no warning signal, and ultimately, no trace of the aircraft could be found. The plane had vanished without a trace from one of the world's busiest and most closely monitored airspaces. Initial theories, fueled by desperation, pointed to a sudden and catastrophic technical malfunction, but a thorough check with every other control center along the flight path confirmed that no one had heard from the flight. Minutes slowly turned to agonizing hours. Initial concern quickly escalated into a full-blown emergency. 61 souls had seemingly disappeared into thin air, leaving behind grieving families and a bewildered aviation community. Despite an extensive search, no wreckage was ever found, no telltale oil slick on the ocean's surface, and no floating debris. Just an unsettling void where a plane full of people should have been. Pan Am Flight 914 had seemingly flown straight into oblivion, defying all logical explanation. This bizarre event launched a mystery that would continue to haunt the world of aviation for decades to come, baffling experts and fueling countless theories. The impossible, the unthinkable had seemingly happened, challenging the very foundations of what was known about flight, and the world was left grappling with unanswered questions, searching for a rational explanation for an event that defied all reason. The legend of Flight 914, a chilling tale of a plane that vanished into thin air, was just beginning its long and unsettling journey into the annals of aviation lore. The sudden disappearance of Flight 914 triggered a massive, coordinated search and rescue operation. It was an all-hands-on-deck situation, with authorities determined to find any trace of the missing aircraft and its passengers. Coast Guard and military aircraft from multiple bases scoured the vast expanse of the Atlantic, their engines roaring against the silence of the sea. They meticulously searched, flying in grid patterns, hoping against hope to find any sign of the lost DC-4, any indication of what might have happened. Days passed, each sunrise bringing renewed hope, each sunset deepening the despair. But there was nothing. No debris, no survivors, no wreckage, no answers to the questions that haunted everyone involved. Pan Am, reeling from the catastrophe, immediately set up crisis centers to manage the influx of information and provide support to the distraught families. But with no new developments, there was agonizingly little to tell the families clinging to hope amidst growing despair. A thorough investigation was launched, but investigators found no evidence of mechanical issues prior to the flight. There were no warning signs, no indications of any impending problems with the aircraft or its systems. Perhaps the most perplexing aspect of the disappearance was the complete lack of a distress call, leaving experts baffled. The media, hungry for answers, speculated wildly explosion, catastrophic structural failure, or could it have been something far stranger, something beyond conventional explanation? Hundreds of square miles of the Atlantic were meticulously searched, leaving no stone unturned in the desperate quest for answers. But the ocean, vast and indifferent, guarded its secrets jealously, offering no clues to the fate of Flight 914. With absolutely no evidence to go on, after weeks of fruitless searching, authorities reluctantly declared the flight lost at sea, a conclusion born of despair rather than certainty. Death certificates were issued for all those on board, a grim formality that offered little comfort to the grieving. Insurance claims were processed and compensation was paid to the families, a poor substitute for the loved ones they had lost. But for many, closure never truly came, the unanswered questions continuing to haunt them for years to come. For the families left behind, the agonizing mystery surrounding the fate of Flight 914 was simply unbearable. The world, as it always does, moved on, the daily routines of life gradually obscuring the tragedy from public consciousness. But the story of Flight 914, with its unsettling lack of resolution, refused to die, lingering in the shadows of aviation history. The complete absence of answers left a gaping vacuum in the narrative, a void that demanded to be filled. And that vacuum was soon filled by rumor, speculation, and increasingly outlandish myth. Flight 914 itself was physically gone, vanished without a trace into the vastness of the Atlantic. But its legend, fueled by mystery and unanswered questions, was just beginning to take off, soaring into the realm of the unexplained. With the investigation closed, Flight 914 became aviation folklore. Pilots and controllers whispered about the ghost flight that vanished without a trace. For families, the lack of closure was a wound that never healed. Over time, the story mutated. No longer just a tragedy, but a mystery ripe for speculation. Theories flourished: alien abduction, time warp, a tear in reality itself. The absence of evidence became proof of something extraordinary. By the 1980s, the tale was a polished urban legend, complete with specific details and dates. It was no longer just a missing plane, it was Pan Am Flight 914 lost in time. The legend simmered, waiting for a twist that would make it unforgettable. That twist, according to the story, was about to arrive. September 9, 1992. A seemingly ordinary day, much like any other. But beneath the surface of the mundane, something extraordinary was about to unfold. A mystery that would challenge the very fabric of reality. Simon Bolivar International Airport, Caracas, Venezuela. A bustling hub of international travel, a place where countless journeys begin and end every single day. Little did the people there know that it was about to become the stage for an inexplicable event. Air traffic controllers, vigilant guardians of the skies, spotted an unidentified aircraft on radar. A rogue blip, an anomaly in their meticulously monitored airspace. It had no flight plan, no handoff from any other control center. It was as if the aircraft had materialized out of thin air, a ghost in the machine. Radio calls went unanswered as the blip steadily approached the airport, an eerie silence amplifying the growing sense of unease in the control tower. The controllers tried desperately to make contact, but their calls faded into the static. Suddenly, a voice crackled through, a faint distorted signal cutting through the silence. "This is Pan Am Flight 914, New York to Miami." The voice was clear, yet laced with an unsettling static, as if it were traveling across time itself. The pilot claimed it was July 2, 1955, a date that belonged to a bygone era, a world of propeller planes and Cold War anxieties. And he was due to land in Miami, a destination that was decades in his past, a place that had changed beyond recognition in the intervening years. The controllers, stunned into silence, quickly cleared the runway for an emergency landing, their minds racing to comprehend the impossible situation unfolding before them. The pilot reported a Douglas DC-4 with 61 people on board, a relic of aviation history, a plane that should have been retired long ago. The date, the aircraft, the details, they were like echoes from a forgotten past. All matched the vanished flight, a cold case that had haunted aviation circles for decades, a mystery that had defied explanation. Ground crews scrambled, a flurry of activity against the backdrop of mounting disbelief. As the vintage plane came into view, a collective gasp swept through the airport. It was a DC-4, Pan Am livery intact, a ghost from a golden age of aviation, looking as if it had just left 1955, preserved in time, untouched by the wear and tear of the intervening decades. The impossible was happening, a tear in the fabric of time, a breach in the laws of physics. A ghost flight was about to land in the present, a moment that would forever be etched in the annals of aviation history. The airport staff watched in disbelief, their faces a mixture of awe and bewilderment, as the relic from the past touched down, a smooth, almost surreal landing. The world, it seemed, was about to get answers, or perhaps even more questions, to a decades-old mystery, a puzzle that had baffled experts and fueled countless conspiracy theories. The legend had come to life, a tangible manifestation of a story that had been relegated to the realm of myth. The DC-4 rolled to a stop, its journey through time seemingly complete. Engines humming, a time capsule on the tarmac, a silent testament to a bygone era, a moment frozen in time. The story was about to take an even stranger turn, as the crew prepared to disembark and face a world that was both familiar and utterly alien to them. The impossible had become real, if only for a moment, a fleeting glimpse into the mysteries that lie just beyond the grasp of our understanding. As the DC-4 taxied, the control tower informed the pilot it was 1992. Silence. Then panic. The pilot insisted it was 1955 and they were bound for Miami. The confusion in the cockpit was palpable. Voices, disbelief, fear. The crew had no explanation for the 37-year gap. The pilot's agitation grew. He couldn't accept the reality outside his window. Passengers, unaware, prepared for a routine landing, oblivious to the time slip. The control tower urged calm, but the pilot's distress escalated. He questioned everything: location, date, even his own senses. The DC-4, a relic, sat on a modern runway, its crew lost in time. The most incredible part of the legend was about to unfold. The world watched, breathless, as the mystery deepened. What would happen next was beyond anyone's imagination. The DC-4's landing was flawless, but the tension was electric. Ground crews approached, unsure what they'd find inside. The pilot, seeing modern jets in uniforms, panicked. He shouted over the radio, demanding answers. A pocket calendar fell from the plane, dated 1955, a supposed artifact from the past. The calendar became the legend's proof, a tangible link between eras. But instead of shutting down, the pilot made a desperate choice. Engines roared. The DC-4 accelerated down the runway. The plane took off, leaving stunned crews behind. In seconds, the ghost flight vanished into the sky once more. The mystery deepened. The legend grew. Chaos erupted as the DC-4 disappeared into the clouds. Controllers watched the radar. One moment the blip was there, the next it was gone. The plane had vanished again, just as mysteriously as before. Authorities were left with only stories and a 1955 calendar. Eyewitnesses swore they'd seen a plane from the past land and take off. The radio recordings, the calendar, the testimonies all became part of the legend. The second disappearance cemented Flight 914 as a modern myth. Was it a time slip? A ghost flight? The evidence was tantalizing, but unprovable. The story became a puzzle with no solution. Flight 914 was now a legend, trapped between fact and fantasy. The world was left to wonder, could a plane really vanish into time? The myth was unstoppable. But here's the truth. None of it ever happened. There's no record of a missing Pan Am Flight 914 in 1955. No DC-4 vanished, no mysterious reappearance in Caracas. The story originated in a 1985 Weekly World News tabloid article, pure fiction. Photos, radio recordings, the calendar, all fabricated. The legend spread online, stripped of its tabloid roots, and became fact. The details made it believable, but it was always a hoax. YouTube documentaries and internet forums kept the myth alive. Millions believed, but the evidence was smoke and mirrors. The endurance of the story proves the power of a good yarn. Flight 914 never left the runway, except in our imaginations. Why do we love stories like Flight 914? They tap into our longing for mystery in a world that feels explained. The idea of a plane slipping through time is thrilling, terrifying, and irresistible. The legend plays on our anxieties about technology and the unknown. It's a modern ghost story dressed in the trappings of aviation and science. Specific details, names, dates, evidence, make it feel real. We want to believe, to be detectives, to wonder what if. Flight 914 endures because it's a fantastic story, a myth for the modern age. Even debunked, it flies on in our collective imagination. Some mysteries, it seems, are just too good to let go.